Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man sara sabilihi ila yawmiddin, amma ba'd. So in continuing discussing the series of by Imam An-Nawawee rahimahullah, this particular collection that I refer to as Al-Arba'in An-Nawawee. So in the last lesson that we had, or last session that we had covered concerning Hadeeth Al-Thamin, which was the 8th Hadeeth, and we had that Hadeeth in two parts. And today, inshallah ta'ala, that we'll be starting the Hadeeth Al-Tasi', the 9th Hadeeth, and as mentioned, that we'll be following concerning the method that we normally followed, which is concerning discussing the Hadeeth or reading the Hadeeth. Then after, we'll have a discussion around the Hadeeth regarding takhrij, also regarding concerning matters around relating to the narrator of the Hadeeth, and also discussing of the fawahid and the ahkam that can be taken from this Hadeeth. So read the Hadeeth in English and also in Arabic, and then we start to discuss the Hadeeth. Tafaddal.
Hadith number 9. Responsibility is dependent on ability. On the authority of Abu Hurairah, Abdurrahman ibn Sakh, that he said, I heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam saying, that which I have forbidden you from, abstain from it. That which I have ordered you with, do as much of it as you are able. It was only the excessive questioning and disagreeing with their prophets that destroyed those before you. Related by Bukhari and Muslim.
So they discuss concerning this Hadeeth Al-Tasi', this 9th Hadeeth in this series, that he mentioned the Hadeeth as his normal method. And Abi Hurairah radiyallahu anhu, we mentioned Abdurrahman ibn Sakhr radiyallahu anhu قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول ما نهيتكم عنه فاجتنبوه وما أمرتكم به فافعلوا منه ما استطعتم فإنما أهلك الذين من قبلكم كثرة مسائلهم واختلافهم على أنبيائهم رواه Bukhari wa Muslim. So that's the hadith is mentioned here that would be the 9th hadith to be discussed of those hadith that is said to be of this collection that is called AHadith Jawami' al-Kalim, where the Prophet of Islam spoke very few words, but the meaning is somewhat very vast. So regarding concerning discussing this hadith, that of those things that will cover concerning that is mentioned hadith in Bukhari and Muslim. So this hadith that is an Abu Hurairah that has been mentioned by the author. As for what is mentioned regarding takhrij of the hadith, then also Busiri that he added regarding concerning what Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal fi Musnadi, that this hadith also is collected by Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal in his Musnad and others. So as for concerning this hadith that has been mentioned, as he mentioned, Rawahu Bukhari wa Muslim. But this hadith that is mentioned here is the hadith here that this particular wording of the hadith is found in Sahih Muslim. So this wording of the hadith, then this wording is found in Sahih Muslim. As for the wording of the hadith that with Bukhari and Muslim, that the Prophet I mentioned that An Abu Hurairah anhu an Nabi Islam قال دعوني ما تركتكم إنما أهلك من كان قبلكم سؤالهم واختلافهم على أنبيائهم فإذا نهيتكم عن شيء فاجتنبوا وإذا أمرتكم بأمر فأتوا منه ما استطعتم. So that's the hadith that is with Bukhari and Muslim. So with that wording, the second wording, دعوني ما تركتكم إنما أهلك, where I mentioned that leave me, concerning leave what I have left you upon, and that indeed those before you were destroyed because of their excessive questioning and also going indifferent to their anbiya, into their prophets. And what I have forbid you, then you should avoid it. And what I have commanded you, then you should do of it according to your ability. So with that wording, then that wording is Bukhari and Muslim. As for the first wording that is mentioned here, is more so the wording of Muslim.
Okay, so that's up to what? It's the doctrine. Up to there. That's Bukhari.
But the word that we read, where it mentioned at the start of where it started, مَا نَهِيتُكُمْ عَنْهُ فَاجْتَنِبُوا. The wording that we mentioned in, that we read from An-Nawawee, that wording he mentioned at the end, he says, Rawahu Bukhari and Muslim. Mm-hmm. So what is understood, that with this wording, it is found with this similar wording or with this wording in Bukhari and Muslim. But the reality that the wording that is mentioned here is the wording of Imam Muslim. But the actual wording that is more with Bukhari and Muslim that are more, Bukhari and Muslim is another wording. With another isnad, we mentioned both an Abu Hurairah anhu, but the wording is Da'uni ma taraktukum, that leave what I have left you upon. Innama ahlaka man kana qablakum, those before were destroyed because they ask excessive questioning and also they go against the Anbiya. With that wording to the end of it, that's the wording of Bukhari and Muslim. Now, it's a slight difference in the wording and also in it started out the second wording, Bukhari Muslim, Da'uni ma taraktukum, that leave what I've left you upon. So the other one that we mentioned first, it started by, leave those things that I forbid upon you, do the things that I command you according to your ability. Then I mentioned, indeed, those before were destroyed because of their excessive questioning and also going in opposition to their Anbiya. Clear? You saw a slight difference in wording.
Yeah.
A slight difference in wording, but the overall meaning is the same. The overall meaning is similar, or give the same meaning. They mentioned concerning a matter regarding this hadith also, that the reason behind these words were mentioned, or this hadith was mentioned, that they mentioned a story occurred. So the story mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ that the Messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he addressed us in a khutbah where he mentioned, Ya ayyuhan nas, qad faradallahu alaykum al-hajj, fahajju, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that in mankind, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made compulsory upon you hajj, then you should perform hajj. فقال رجل أكل عام يا رسول الله. So a man, when he heard this sentence, when he heard this instruction, he asked, are we to perform hajj yearly, annually? فسكت أتى قالها ثلاثا. So the Prophet ﷺ remained silent, and the person repeated the question over and over 3 times. But the Prophet ﷺ, he went silent. فقال, the Prophet ﷺ then responded to the person by saying, لو قلت نم, if I were to say nam, لوجبت, then becomes something that you have to perform. Nam, accordingly, yearly. فلما ما استطعتم, and you will not be able. You will not be able. So meaning concern that they mentioned, the hadith, ذروني ما تركتكم إنما أهلك من كان قبلكم بسؤالهم واختلافهم على أنبيائهم إذا أمرتكم بأمر بشيء فأتوا منه ما استطعتم فإذا نهيتكم عن شيء فدعوه. So then he mentioned the hadith. So the story, the backdrop behind this particular hadith is regarding that Isa alayhi salam gave certain instructions regarding the people to perform hajj. So a person gonna somewhat ask, is it something that we should do yearly, annually, that each person need to perform hajj every year? Then Isa alayhi salam did not answer initially, and a person repeated the question, and Isa alayhi salam didn't answer until he responded after 3 times. Then he gave a response. So sure, the person was still seeking some clarity regarding his question. So he continued to ask, and the Prophet ﷺ then went on to answer, where he mentioned that leave as things that I've said it, just leave things as I've given to explain to you, or showed you, or explained to you, and that excessiveness in questioning, then sometimes this was of the reason why nations before were destroyed, and also them going in contradiction, going against the Anbiya. So that's concerning the backdrop or the reason behind this particular hadith. So you find out what they call concern. So this sometimes occur where hadith may be mentioned, but there's a story that's attached to it. But then the meaning of the hadith is not restricted to that particular incident. So what can be extracted from the hadith is not restricted to that particular incident. So also the hadith, as mentioned, that in the others I've narrated this particular hadith. So the second matter is concerning takhrij of the hadith in brief. So as for Rawi al-Hadith, regarding concerning narrator of the hadith, then as An-Nawawee rahimahullah, that of his, what he will normally do is that whenever he mention a Sahabi for the first time, he will mention his full name, or he'll mention his name. He'll mention his name and his kunya, if it is known. So, and also he followed the same pattern in his book, Riyadus Salihin. So of his books also, he used sometimes follow this pattern, that whenever he mentioned a Sahabi, then he'll mention his name. So the person's become familiar with the name of the Sahabi. So he mentioned regarding that I mentioned concerning, as we mentioned, An Abi Hurairah. That is his kunya. So that is kunya of Abu Hurairah. So Abu Hurairah kunya is as such. But as for his actual name, what's the name of Abu Hurairah? A Sahabi that is well known, but more so known with his kunya. So they mentioned regarding there is a lengthy discussion regarding what is the exact name. So it's a lengthy discussion. We find that many aqwal or many things have been stated regarding, with the extent that Ibn Jawzi that mentioned regarding that over 80, that's over like 80 names that have been mentioned regarding what is supposed to be his actual name. So you find a lengthy discussion between the ulama regarding his name, but it kind of somewhat boiled down to what is of those more famous of the names that he mentioned here. Abdul Rahman ibn Sakhr al-Dawsi. Abdul Rahman ibn Sakhr al-Dawsi. So that's of the original being from Ad-Daws, from Yemen. Ad-Daws, that the origins are from Yemen. So that's the view that is taken by An-Nawawee and most of the contemporary, that they are of the view that the name of Abu Hurairah is Abdul Rahman ibn Sakhr al-Dawsi. But there's other views that are there, that his name, another view that is there, that his name was Abdul Shams. So his name before Islam was Abdul Shams ibn Amir. Abdul Shams ibn Amir, that was his name before Islam. And that after Islam his name was Abdullah. So of those who believe that his name before Islam, Abdul Shams ibn Amir, and his name after Islam, Abdullah. So you'll find concerning and also another name that have been put forward, but those are the names that have been mentioned regarding his name. So that's concerning in brief regarding the discussion regarding the name of Abu Hurairah ta'ala anhu. As for his kunya, which is Abu Hurairah, that means concern like Hirra mean like a kitten, cat. So Hurairah mean concerned cats, small cats, kittens. That they mentioned regarding why was he given such a name? Why was he given this kunya? Why was given this kunya? From this regarding Abu Hurairah, that per se, normally, traditionally, kunya is a person given the name of his firstborn male child, or in general his firstborn child. So a person kunya is usually taken from his firstborn child, or it could be from his firstborn male child. And at times a kunya may be given to a person because of the attachment to a particular type of thing or animal. So the person becomes known for a particular thing, so it's given that kunya, even though that's not the name of a child or a person. So this kunya, Abu Hurairah, that mentioned, that it is stated, so we mentioned kunta, mentioned that kuntu ar'a ghanam ahli, that he mentioned that I used to look after the ghanam, the sheep and of my family, the cattle for my family. وَكَانَتْ لِي حِرَّةٌ صَغِيرَةٌ, and he mentioned that I used to have a small kitten. وَكُنْتُ أَجْعَلَهَا فِي اللَّيْلِ فِي الشَّجَرِ, that at nights I'll place this cat in the trees at night. So at night I'll place her in the tree, the cat. فَإِذَا كَانَ بِالنَّهَارِ, and in the evening, ذَهَبْتُ بِهَا مَعِي, then I'll take this cat with me. The cat will always be with him during the daytime. فَكَنَّيْتُ بِهَا, so he said that I was given the kunya because of this. I was given كَنَّيْتُ بِهَا, so I was given this name, as he mentioned, فَكَنُّونِي أَبَا هُرَيْرَةَ, so the people started calling me Abu Hurairah because of I used to have this cat with me, or I used to have this cat with him all the time, or during the day the cat will always be with him. So that's concerning is that I mentioned that that's the reason behind him having this kunya, because that he used to be fond of cats, and that is how he got this kunya. As for the person who named him Abu Hurairah, some mention it was by his father who named him or gave him this kunya Abu Hurairah, and some mention the Prophet ﷺ also called him Abu Hurairah. As he mentioned, like Ibn Abdul Barr in his book Isti'ab, like Ibn Abdul Barr, a book that is called Isti'ab, that discusses concerning Sahaba, that discuss a biography of the Sahaba. So it mentioned in that he mentioned أنه قال كنت أحمل يوما هرة, that he mentioned that one day I was carrying a cat في قمي, in my sleeve. فرآني نبي عليه السلام, so the Prophet عليه السلام, he saw me, فقال ما هذا, So the Prophet ﷺ said, what is this? فَقُلْتُ حِرَّةٌ. I said it's a small cat. فقال the Prophet ﷺ, يَا أَبَا هُرَيْرَةَ. So from that, that's from the book of Isti'ab of Ibn Abdul Barr. So regarding concerning that the naming, that either from the Prophet ﷺ, some mention from the Prophet and some mention by way of his father who gave him this kunya. So overall, overall that he was given this kunya because of his affection towards cats. His affection towards cats. As we mentioned, this is Qabila and Islamu. As for his Qabila, that's where he came from, mentioned that Qabilatul Daws, who is from Yemen. That is from the Qabila, from the tribe of Ad-Daws, and they are from Yemen. As for Islamuhu, as for his acceptance of Islam, as to when he accepted Islam, that I mentioned regarding that he accepted Islam as-Sanat as-Sabi', that in the 7th year of the Hijrah, when Abu Hurairah accepted Islam. So 7 years before the Hijrah, that he accepted Islam. So that's like what? 7, around not long after, said about 4 or so years that after them, but he accepted Islam later on, so the 7th year after Hijrah, meaning after Mecca, and they came Hijrah and they settled in Medina. 7 years after settling in Medina, the Prophet Islam, then that's when he accepted Islam. So several years, 3 or 4 years after, the Prophet Islam died. And I mentioned that it was around the time of Khaybar, that ulama, but majority of ulama occurred that at Khaybar, that this battle, that it occurred around the 7th year of the Hijrah. Some mention the 6th, but majority is of the 7th. As for his upbringing, Abu Hurairah anhu, that he grew up as a yatim, so grew up as an orphan, and was somewhat of a poor background. As for those things regarding his thing that was noted Abu Hurairah, that with him, that regarding hadith narrations from the Sahaba. So amongst the Sahaba, he is known to be the one concerning the most narration of hadith. So Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu is known to be the one with the most narrations of hadith compared to all of the companions. So he's known to be a rawi as-sa'a, he's known to be a rawi al-Islam. He's said to be like the rawi of Islam concerning the main narrator amongst the Sahaba, who narrated over 5,000 plus hadith or more. So concerning amongst the Sahaba, he has narrated most of the many hadith upon the Prophet Islam compared to others. So you find because of Abu Hurairah anhu that as we mentioned that he accepted Islam in the 7th year of the Hijrah. So that was the Prophet Islam, so about 4 or so years after the Prophet Islam died. So there several years that he was the Prophet Islam. So that meant, so there are some people that try to, like the Mustashrikeen, those people who are the Orientalists. You know of them?
No, really, no.
Are those are the people kind of somewhat from non-Muslim who study Islam. So you have like certain people who are non-Muslim, that they will study Islam type of thing. It's kind of somewhat their thing also is to, at some point, a lot of them kind of somewhat to attack Islam. Amongst them. But generally concerning non-Muslim who study Islam, now you find that Muslim who study Islam on their method. So their method of how they scrutinize others kind of somewhat study Islam is a bit different, where most of the time is to point out faults. And to question things that is well established amongst the Muslim because of their lack of understanding of certain things. But overall, you find that concerning, you find a lot of people who like to criticize hadith. The ones who like to criticize hadith and attack hadith, they usually sometimes they point their finger off to Abu Hurairah, because said he's the one that, and they kind of someone try to use it, that he came into Islam later on, or that he narrated so many hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ, and kind of so they kind of someone put those attack upon him. And that's another person, no one knows of his name and da. So they kind of somewhat use those things. But we mentioned that those things for us is clear. That regarding his name, yes, there's a khilaf But the person is still known regarding, at that time certainly said, so it is still known as to this person who he is. And also concerning anyone who said to be a Sahaba is of udul, is considered to be a person who is reliable and credible and sound. So it mentioned regarding Sufyan, it says that many try to attack him as being one of the main narrators of Hadith. And a couple of days ago, someone sent a video clip that they said that concerning that the largest personal Islamic library in the world, the person, the individual who has the largest collection of Islamic book in the world, guess who? The Pope.
I don't know.
The Vatican. So they said, so they were interviewing some people and somewhat work with them. So they said that what they would do, what they did, they would, that's something in the 30s, but at some point they decide that from the Pope, because the Vatican is their own city by itself, isn't it? But they have so what they did, they were commissioned by the Pope, whoever that one, the Pope was, for them to, the cardinals or whatever their title they're given, to go to the Muslim land and to study Islam in the Muslim way. To study Islam as to how the Muslim will study Islam. So go to the Muslim country and sit and learn Islam as the Muslim will learn Islam. So contrary to the way of others who, from the non-Muslim, look at Islam to see how they can throw things at Islam. So their thing is, understand it how they understand. Go and sit with their shuyukh. So they send people all over the world. And you find, and amongst them in their library, you have people who are especially in Arabic and they're not Muslim and everything. You understand? But for them their thing is to understand Islam in the way the Muslim understand Islam. So they send their people out. So they said also, every book that is published, we have a copy. Anything that is published regarding Islam, they have copies. So they have a huge library, a personal library, just about Islam. But they might have about other religions. You understand? But that's their mindset. That's their mindset. You have some mashaykh who have some huge library, personal library. That you have library that I've seen that is bigger than this masjid. That's a personal library. See the masjid size, books, this size is still small compared to their library. But you find that people who have that type of love for books and collector of books, but you find but of the largest collectors, and I mention others, who are the largest makhtutat in the world. Personal makhtut is a person from guess where? You find a person from Iran that will have, we come to makhtut, manuscript, Islamic manuscript, they have a bunch of them.
Asian ones.
It's Arabic manuscript and everything is Islamic stuff. But you find that people also will collect concerning what we call makhtut, which is concerning manuscript, scrolls, or the old type of writing, books of old. They'll collect those things. So you have those people collect them. Some people trade with them, but you find people who collect them, but they have value. They have value concerning information, and also value concerning the value of those items themselves. But overall, but overall find that the attack at times concerning the people who want to attack Islam, they somewhat point their guns to Hadith. They usually point their guns to the Hadith, and also certain personalities who are known to be of the main narrators of Hadith, also they try to attack them, amongst them Abu Hurairah ta'ala anhu. So you find that books of the ulama have written regarding in defense of Abu Hurairah because of the attack that some throw against him. So as for Abu Hurairah anhu, it is stated regarding concerning that in the time of Omar ibn Khattab that he placed him as Amir over Bahrain. So concerning the area of Bahrain, that Omar ibn Khattab, when he was the Khalifa, that he placed Abu Hurairah as the Amir, the governor of that region. Then he was removed from that position. When Omar wanted to replace him, to give him certain governor, then Abu Hurairah refused to continue to engage in concerning governorship. Then he somewhat settled in Medina until he died, radiyallahu anhu. So eventually he somewhat settled in Medina and until his death, radiyallahu anhu. As for when they mentioned he died, they mentioned that he died in Medina, the year, you have a khilafah, so the exact time that he died. some mention 57 Hijri, some mention 59. So between 57 and 59 Hijri, that was the time that he died, Rata'ala anhu. And that was in the last years of the Khalifa of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. So in the last days or the last years of the time of Khalifa Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. And that he lived to about 87. So he died at the age around 87, and he was buried in Baqi'. So he was buried in Baqi' in Medina. So when a person visits like Medina, that grave site of those people buried there, Abu Hurairah Rata'ala anhu. So that's concerning those matters pertaining to the Rawi al-Islam. As for the importance of this hadith, the next point is regarding the importance the ulama have given to this hadith. So what the ulama have said regarding the importance of this hadith, that Imam Abu Dawood al-Sijistani, so Abu Dawood al-Sijistani rahimahullah, Sahib al-Sunan, he mentioned al-fiqh yadur ala khamsa ahadith, that the fiqh of Islam for the fuqaha, then it revolves around 5 hadith, khamsa hadith. And this is one of those hadiths. This hadith is one of those hadith that the fiqh of Islam, it revolves, centered around this hadith and 4 others. So it shows concern that, I said that the book of Abu Dawood is mainly concerning, is a book in fiqh. So the book of Abu Dawood is a book that mainly to cover concerning matters relating to fiqh. So after ulama have mentioned a person who said to be a faqih, a proper faqih, and haven't read Sunan Abu Dawood, then he's not a faqih. So a person said to be a faqih and haven't read the book of Abu Dawood, then that person haven't done justice to fiqh. And now rahimahullah I've mentioned regarding the importance of this hadith, فقال هذا من قواعد الإسلام المهمة, that this hadith is of the qawaid, of the principle of Islam, the foundation of Islam, that is of importance. ومن جوامع الكلم, and also of those words which is of jawami al-kalim, words that have few words of the Prophet al-Islam, but have immense meaning. التي عُوتِيَهَا Nabi al-Islam, the Prophet al-Islam was given to this. وَيَدْخُلْ فِيهَا مَا لَا يُحْصَى مِنْ أَحْكَامٍ. And also in this hadith that there's many ahkam that can be derived from it. There's many ahkam that can be derived from this hadith. So I show concern the importance regarding some of the aqwal of the ulama pertaining to the importance of this hadith. And of this hadith kind of somewhat revolves regarding halal and haram, in the sense of those things that one is command, things that one we have been instructed to comply with, that the person do it according to his ability, and also things that a person should avoid, things that are forbidden, where the person should avoid those things. Also Ibn Rajab rahimullah, he called regarding this hadith, so that concerning this hadith. So the next of those points, so that's concerning what has been said by the ulama regarding this particular hadith. We'll go kind of somewhat to mention, so the meaning of the hadith in general, the general meaning of the hadith. As in the hadith mentioned, نَهَيْتُكُمْ مَا نَهَيْتُكُمْ أَنْهُ فَاجْتَنِبُوا, those things that I have forbidden upon you, I've made forbidden upon you, then you should leave it. So the ulama mentioned concerning that, those things that have been forbidden, where the Prophet is asking us to avoid something. He's asking us to stop and to avoid a particular thing, not to partake, not to do, carry out a particular thing. Then those things that we are told not to do it, then the person should just avoid it. The person should completely stay away from this. Then second, things that we have been commanded to do, instructed to do. So there's instruction of to leave off, and things that we're instructed that we should comply, we should carry out those things. So I mentioned, إِذَا أَمَرْتُكُمْ بِأَمْرِ, that if I command you regarding a matter, then it shows that those things that we have been instructed to carry out, the Muslim should try, the Muslim should fulfill it to the best of his ability, according to his ability. So things that we have been told to do, we do those things to the best of our capabilities. Then I mentioned of the thing that we want to be mindful of, that also of the things that destroyed those nations before. I mentioned ahlak man kana qablakum, that of those things that destroy, meaning concerning the things that nations before that brought about the destruction of nations regarding their dunya wal akhirah. So things that brought about their destruction. So ahlaka, where they were destroyed, is not just concerned their dunya, but those people were destroyed regarding in relation to their dunya wal akhirah. So it impacted their dunya was destroyed and also their akhirah. So concerning those people who are destroyed. That mentioned man qablakum regarding concerning the nations before, akhilaf between the ulama regarding nation before, that some mention that all those nations, that those anbiya that they came to, of those who are included, some mention it is more specific to the Yahud and Nasara. That is regarding those before is more specific to the Yahud and Nasara, but those who generate that also applies to others of the anbiya that their people went against them. Then it mentioned of those things that brought about their destruction regarding their deen wa dunya is regarding one, kathru su'al, that asking excessive questions. And we'll discuss concerning where question there's no need for it. There's no question, there's no point, there's no benefit from those questions. So people asking questions that either those things are not practical question, they're asking question that is not also unrealistic. Also they're asking question that there's no action that can be drawn really from it. They're asking question also, sometimes people ask question kind of somewhat to try to use a way to expose that person, to attack the person. So they ask question and somewhat they use it as a way to kind of somewhat to use it in a way to attack the person, or sometimes ask question in a way of confrontation. They just want to have an argument. So those are the things that a person tries to avoid question with those intent behind it, with those intention. So question is asked regarding a person to benefit and can act upon something. Then I mentioned also of those things that was a cause of their destruction, اختلافهم على أنبيائهم, that also that them going يخالف الأنبياء, they're going in opposition to the anbiya, they're disobeying of their anbiya. So regarding are there tataraddud, where they also that they have doubt about the information that the anbiya gave to them or things that were said to them. So the person contradicting, disobeying, the person who is in doubt regarding what was said by the anbiya, they put doubt and shubahat, then all of those people, they fall into this. Or they want to make jidal, they want to make an argument, rebuttal. All of this is fall into ikhtilafuhum ala anbiya'ihim. All of that is a part of it. So that's concerning the meaning of the hadith ijmali, as summarized meaning of the hadith. That's a summarized meaning of the hadith. So as also we included before, that this was a person asking a question where the Prophet ﷺ gave certain instruction. And he was asking certain things. The Prophet ﷺ kind of someone to remind him of this. So it shows regarding that. As for now, a shar tafsili. But before that, Ibn Uthaymin rahimullah, when he mentioned this hadith, he mentioned certain points at fawaid of some of the general benefits that can be taken from the hadith. Of the general benefits that can be taken from the hadith, he mentioned wujub kaf amma na'ahanhu Nabi alayhi salam, that the thing that the Prophet ﷺ forbid, then a person should stay away from those things. So those things that either Prophet ﷺ forbid us, then one should avoid those things completely. That's of the benefit. In general, second that he mentioned, أن النهي عنه يشمل القليل والكثير. Also things that are forbidden in Islam. Things that have been forbidden in Islam, that the Muslim, those things that are forbidden, whether those things are in large or small quantity or amount. So things that are haram is haram. There's no least and there's no most to it. It is haram is haram. So the person the person involvement is to a small extent or to a large extent, both are haram. Both is haram. The person shouldn't be thinking about the amount, but rather to leave away that thing. So regarding, for example, any which is haram, for example, I mentioned concerning al-khamr, alcohol, riba. Things that are haram, that even concerning whether it is the person taking riba, 10 pence, or the person taking a million, both are still doing something haram. But yes, the level, there's degrees, but both are haram acts. Both are still haram. The person who drink hamar, the person drink a full bottle of whiskey, or a person who just take a sip of the whiskey, both are still haram. Both are generally haram. As for the degree, then it tafawut, then it of different degree. But the act of drinking alcohol, whether small amount or large amount, or things of haram, then all of that is haram. Also I mentioned regarding concerning al-kaf ahwan min al-fi'l, that also a person avoiding something that is more easier than to carry out something. Not doing something is easier than doing something. Clear what that means? Mm-hmm. Clear? Mm-hmm. So the person that not doing something, that's the easier thing. Doing something requires more effort. Nam? But to avoid laziness. So laziness is not doing anything. It's not doing anything at time. And not doing so, that be problematic. But generally concerning matters, al-kaf ahwan min al-fi'l, that a person to avoid something, not doing something, is easier than doing something. So it requires more effort. So regarding concerning manhiyat, is the person just not doing that thing. So manhiyat, so something is haram, it's just don't do it. Then you have complied. Then you have complied by not doing of that thing. But with awamir, with things that are instructions, things to be, the person then, after now, bring about an act. You have to now carry out an act. So that's concerning those matters that are mentioned. Also, the Shaykh can somewhat discuss in brief regarding that things are haram in Islam. So it's general, but you find concern that you have certain cases where haram can become, where there's some cases where there's some level concerning that of concessions regarding a person, a case of durura wal haja, a person, a case of necessity, ittirab, with a person that's something may be haram, but in case of necessity, the rule of necessity sometimes can override this. So a person considered necessity, that is a legitimate reason where the person will fall into something haram, there is no way out. Because of a situation circumstance, then there may be some leeway depending. So they mentioned, for example, that or a person can indulge in haram because of certain necessity of life and death matters. Without it, your life at risk or severely harmed. Then the person may can indulge in something haram according to a certain level, to a certain degree. So they mentioned la muharram mal durura. There's nothing which is haram in case of necessity. So when they're in case of necessity, then the rule somewhat changes. So a thing that is haram for that person in that case of necessity, then the haram becomes for them halal. The haram becomes for them halal due to the circumstance of necessity. So they mention la hurma ma darura. So there is nothing which is haram in case of necessity. Wala wajib mal ajz. And there's nothing which is, it does thing that is wajib is removed if the person he has no ability. He has no ability. So that's concerning those. So you might find cases of exceptions regarding things that is haram due to circumstance. And that's normally the thing that attached to it. There's a circumstance. So if something you find that ulama may give a fatwa of permissibility regarding something that is known to be haram, is usually because there's circumstances behind it and a reason. Also, he mentioned of those general fawaid that can be taken, أنه لا يجب من فعل المأمور إلا ما كان مستطاعا. That also regarding of those things regarding ma'mur, those things the person are commanded to fulfill and to carry out, then it's according to the person's ability in general. So regarding concerning the person is instructed to carry out something, then it's according to the person's ability. So I said that's in general concerned according to the person's ability, and in most cases, and concerning the Sharia, that when a person is commanded to do something, is normally within the person's ability. And says normally within the ability of people concerning in general. Then of those things that he mentioned, لا ينبغي الإنسان إذا also mentioned لا ينبغي الإنسان, also mentioned it's not befitting for a person, يعني Muslim person, إذا سمع أمر رسول الإسلام, that he is concerned the Prophet, the instruction of the Prophet الإسلام, أن يقول هل هو واجب أم مستحب. When the Prophet ﷺ have instructed us to do something, or we are ready, the Prophet ﷺ said to do of this thing, the person shouldn't in his mind be thinking, is this wajib or is this mustahab? He must be thinking, carry out this act, implement it. Because there's clear instruction that we have been told by the Prophet ﷺ to fulfill that thing. So for the person not to be in his mind, is it by way of I must do it, or it is something which is not a must? The fact that it is something, it is proof that something which is mashru', is something which is legislated, then you carry it out. But without unnecessarily asking, is it wajib, is it this, is it that, is it mubah? So, and to put confusion in one's own mind. Also, it shows regarding what the Prophet ﷺ forbids and what the Prophet ﷺ command, that for the person know that it's something from the Sharia. So, Islam at times will tell us things too that we should carry out, and at times things that we should fulfill. And that concerning the crust of the Sharia is on those two borderlines, either things to be done or things to avoid. Things to either be done or things that we are supposed to avoid. So the Sharia is about, as they say, halal and haram. It's about halal and haram, do's and don'ts. As for some of those do's, at times may be wajib, at times may be mustahab, at times may be mubah, but generally there's things to be done. And so that's concerning those matters. Also he mentioned as a general benefit, أن كثرة المسائل سبب الهلاك, that are people who are excessive in asking question, then that leads to people destruction. That's the thing that can lead to a person to, by way of nations or by way of an individual. But excessiveness in question, excessive questioning, then that can lead to destruction, in the sense of question was said that affairs that either things regarding matter that said it's not, the question being asked is not realistic. Persons want to ask questions, this thing told either, I said, for reason for this, maybe for various reasons. People just like to ask questions about things that sometimes they say that doesn't make sense. You just want to ask a question, sure, I can ask a question. But the question that you ask, there's nothing really substantial that comes from it. Nothing of real benefit that comes from it. So put those questions aside. So something, the Prophet ﷺ gives instruction for the person that's somewhat to understand it, you understand, in a balanced way. Not too excessive and asking the person asks, is it every year? Then more information came with that. And that question may be a legitimate question. But is the person to know when to put their question to those in authority. Also it shows regarding that of those things regarding excessiveness or dwelling into matters concerning asma wa sifat, things concerning ghaibiyya, things of the unseen. Things of the unseen. So the person not to overly indulge in asking question of the unseen. Information that we have, alhamdulillah. Things that we don't have, khalas. Kind of somewhat don't overly indulge in those matters. Or the person who said, ask question which is fiqhiyya. Ask question which is fiqh related question. But those questions are the things concerning that somewhat a bit excessive at times also. Sometimes a little bit excessive regarding the question that are asked regarding a matter which is fiqhiyya. So that people sometimes ask question for various reasons. Sometimes it's going to somewhat try to, as they see, to try to expose the teacher or the person who being asked the question, to expose that person. Times to be asked question because they just want to have a type of back and forth. So the question being asked because you want to go back and forth. In a sense that to challenge that person. So it's not really to benefit, but to try to challenge that person. And also you have, questions that are asked, I said, no, things that are just unrealistic. There's nothing really to build on that question that people can actually implement. Or people ask about other people of fear that have no concern business with them. You're asking about a matter that is other people, a business that have nothing to do with you. Now, then leave those people to their business.
What they say, above your pay grade.
Hey, even you understand. So certain things is not per se, it doesn't change anything, doesn't add or change anything in your life. But you're asking about those things. Now, so at times that people, so a person, for example, then going over the top, and people going over the top with question, excessiveness and over the top. For example, a sheikh may come to your country, and the sheikh is known to have qualifications. He has studied through the proper way, and is known to be a talib al-ilm or one of the mashaykh. But people are still concerned to know, what did he study? Who did he study with? So sometimes we find that excessiveness, who did he study? What book did he study? But the sheikh is already known and established that he's a person that academically, he has all the paperwork. He's already known that he's studied with others than the sheikh. But the person asking the detail, how long did he study with the sheikh? Which book did he study with the sheikh? But you know what, he studied with Sheikh Fulan, who's well known. You with me? But he's asking, which book did he study with him? How long did he study with him? Where did he sit in the lesson? What does that matter? So sometimes those questions can be a bit over the top. Yes, sir? Question over the top. So it's being mindful of those matters. And that can relate to concerning matters concerning ad-deen wa dunya. But in this case, so that's concerning, and that I've said that was the thing that caused the nation before, and also others, that in going contradiction, going in opposition to the Anbiya. Second, going against the instruction of the Anbiya. So the Prophet ﷺ can somewhat caution this ummah that not to imitate those people. Not to imitate those people that their destruction was based upon them contradicting the Anbiya, opposing the Anbiya, and also excessiveness in questioning. So that was a general benefit that the Shaykh have mentioned. What time is it? So the tafsil regarding more detailed explanation of certain things that we'll go through, the adhan will be in the next few minutes. So inshallah ta'ala, we'll stop here and continue next week. وبالله تعالى توفيق وهذه إلى سبيل.